Your kingdom is not of this world, to be in a world without belonging to it. What did Jesus mean when he said these words? A collection of quotes featuring insightful recordings of Daniel Gagliardo's teachings, the founder and instructor of Cosmosophy line OXIM. Recorded during Cosmosophy gatherings held across Europe and in the serene landscapes of OXIM, Planetary Service Center in Argentina. In these meetings with Daniel Gagliardo, stimuli and concepts from inner life are made available to the attending public. The different themes arise from questions provided by those attendees, thus allowing for a valuable dynamic of communication and instruction. The acceleration of the apex of the planetary transition offers in these talks tools of synthesis, intended for those individuals or groups whose fate and intention to transform confirm their adherence to the cosmic order that will soon be restored on the planet. To be in a world without belonging to it. Each person consciously approaches a precept, an aspect of the instruction, as best they can. What Jesus said was an important aspect of the instruction. He was saying that one does not have to belong to the world, but rather that being in the world means serving to the world. He did not speak of serving the world. He said to be in the world without belonging to it, meaning that if you belong to the forces of the world, you become a part of the world, and therefore you are in a world belonging to it. So he was talking about freedom of consciousness. To be in a world without belonging to it was to point out the freedom that the consciousness had to find in order to be able to liberate itself, in order to serve. Serving is the ability of our mind, our emotional center, and our actions to represent tools of our soul. The being who finds that thoughts, feelings, and actions are field of liberation of the will of their soul is in the world without belonging to it. They belong to it when the forces that are placed in the three-dimensional plans under the law of karma and test us and end up bringing us to their position. When the involutive forces end up twisting our attunement and we come to belong to them in attunement, we are belonging to the world in which they are placed precisely to test us. So, all of us are there for that, to try to serve the world, but not belonging to the forces of the world. Question from the audience. I also associate this with the fact that you often say that none of us are from here, then none of us is from the earth, so to speak. Daniel answers. Yes, of course, in this case, being in the world without belonging to it would correspond to anything, to cosmic realm. In this case, it relates to a karmic context where now, with no other possibility, we have to do what we're trying to do, trying without success, trying and trying, because temporarily none of us can attune into energy any vibratory pattern other than the terrestrial one. So in this case, the world is what temporarily holds us back. We can't be in a world allowing what holds us back or free from that restraint. And that is it, where there is materialism, the deterrent forces influencing our consciousness, where there is selfishness, where there is envy, where there is resentment, those forces are holding you back, which means that at that moment you belong to the world because those forces are connected to the world, not to the inner life. The inner life regulates them, but they are linked to the world. When those forces overcome you, you belong to the world because those forces are holding you back. They are overcoming your consciousness. There is also another complementary phrase. Somebody from the audience says, "Your kingdom is not of this world." Daniel Gagliardo answers, "Of course, when you do not belong to the world, you are a tool of that kingdom that does not belong to the world, that is not in the world. The kingdom is within you. If I belong to the world, I'm not in attunement and synchronization with what is within me, which is that kingdom, that inner cosmos." But everything is gradual, somebody asks, isn't it? Yes, it is gradual. In relation to that, we also thought of traversing materiality and the image of Christ on the waters come to us when he walks on the water. Daniel Gagliardo answers, there are two symbolic aspects that are there in communion. First, the matter did not consume him, that he did not sink into water, into matter. He was in a world without belonging to it. And second, no less important, is to be above emotional demands. Because water is the element that corresponds to the emotional body. He did not sink into that. He was above it. Where was he? In the air? And the air represents the individual, the intuitive field. So, Jesus did not immerse himself in emotional, psychic controversies. He floated above it. He levitated. When it is said that he walked on water, it is a lie. He levitated. Because walking on water is not possible. Levitating is. Because it is a logical principle based on a certain relationship with energy. So he did not sink into emotional, psychic controversies, which in that emotional era meant more than now, still instinctive. He floated in the wind, in the air, meaning he was immersed and in direct relation with intuitive reality, with non-rational consciousness. Another question from the audience. Let's go back to the topic of not belonging to the world. It is a gradual process, that is what I meant. Under the law of karma, says Daniel Gagliardo, everything is gradual, because consciousness is not capable of leaping or climbing a ladder with very high and widely spaced rungs. Precisely what we have to overcome requires gradualness, because identification with matter makes us rigid and causes us to lose flexibility and cease to be sufficiently translucent. In order to overcome all this rigidness and the lack of transparency and flexibility, we need a gradual process, like someone who has to work with wood to bend it, and if they do it suddenly, they break it. Those who work with wood to bend it know that is a job of a moisture, of heat, of putting it in water, in a flame, letting it dry a little, letting it evaporate. Well, the same thing happens. It is a clear example of karmic evolutionary process. Everything is gradual. But our problem is that we get stuck in the fluidity of gradualness. That is to say, even though we have the possibility and the support to complete these gradual stages, we get stuck. And when we should be moving on, we put down roots in one of the small stages that we make up these expansive cycles. Inertia causes us to delay too much, far too much, which instead of allowing us to transcend the rigidness, actually increases it. That is why humanity had so many problems updating itself, being flexible, being translucent, permeable to the new, to what the inner light seeks to offer us. Therefore, it is always gradual, but in practice, we do not do it that way. Those who take advantage of the support to gradually advance towards what corresponds to them in the future a small percentage. The rest do not. It is as if their possibility of gradually advancing has been interrupted. Question from the audience. This must be closely related. The forgetting of oneself, as it is the process towards accessing the forgetting of oneself, can in somehow be sought voluntarily, or it is something that one does not decide. Daniel Gagliardo says, yes, one decides it. One cannot decide the detaches of the outcome. The detaches are handled by one's inner life, but one decides the direction where one wants to go. Forgetting ourselves is directly related to the being's ability to renounce personal and selfish goals that only serve to draw it into its own desires, its own goals. If a being has confirmed that at this stage they must achieve certain personal, particular selfish goals, they must achieve different things that we relate to success. They cannot forget about themselves. On the contrary, they were aware of themselves and their mechanism, strategies, and protocols to achieve what they desire. Therefore, they do not forget about themselves. When the individual understands what forgetting ourselves is all about, they begin to cooperate, to see if what they are seeking to achieve, tying them to their own tendencies that they cannot transcend, or if it is bringing them closer to the inner will that they are discovering as the true facilitator of what must be achieved, as a guide, as a compass for what must be achieved. And the process then is gradual. It is very simple. Any of us can do these tests. Observe clearly what you want to do every time you get up in the morning. Then what you want to continue doing is mind-morning. What you want to do at noon, in the afternoon, in the late afternoon, near dusk, at night, late at night. Observe where you invest your energy, what your goals are. Are you pursuing success? Are you pursuing a certain status, a recognition? Do you have a particular ambition? Well, you're not forgetting yourself. You are at the top of your scale of values and priorities. Now, if you wake up in the morning thinking about how to continue to situations that involve or influence or impact a large number of people, then you are beginning to think altruistically and within solidarity. You are changing your compass. As the Brotherhood of Light says, those who have changed their north are from the south. Those are the ones who forget themselves, those who change their north, those who are from the south. So, that is the work. One must humbly and intentionally see oneself as one is. See why one breathes in each moment. When one uses one's energy based on what one wants to have more of, to apply it in favor of what? Question from the audience. If you maintain persistence, do it daily. Over time, it should improve, right? Daniel Gagliardo says, Yes, over time it could improve. It should. I don't know, but it could. Because it should, it would be an obligation. And if it is a matter of your persisting in this incarnation, or what remains of this incarnation, even if you do not succeed, that it is one of the best training experiences for the ego. Because sometimes energy allows us to persist, and after a certain amount of time, in that stage of persistence, something specific is achieved. And other times, the learning is about persisting without ultimately achieving anything. The hierarchy says that a large part of the instruction for some people is to persist and not achieve, because it is one of the highest instructive experiences there is, that a being, as the years go by and the years go by, persists and persists and does not achieve. Then the relation mind cracks. Then the rational mind cracks. The ego undergoes a profound transformation because it was able to persist and put all the tools it had, that is, the psychological life, the personality, into the persistence, and finally, from the point of view of reason, it achieved nothing. It believes it achieved nothing, but the fact that it persisted is an immense achievement, because no one knows how much preparation is required for the later and higher stages. And sometimes it requires years and years of persistence without achieving anything, apparently, because persistence itself, with a purpose, is an immense achievement for the ego. Question: what an arduous and difficult world we have been given. Daniel Gagliardo answers, it happened to us, and we gave it a helping hand to make it what it is today.